Hello friends, my name is Heather and welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a review of the new movie, The Wild Robot. I just saw this movie this afternoon with my teenage son and we both really enjoyed it. We loved it actually. And it made me cry, and if a movie or a book makes me cry, it's an automatic 5 out of 5. So I'm just going to start with that right away, that we are both giving it 5 stars. This movie is an animated family feature. It's rated PG, and I think PG is an appropriate rating for it. It's definitely good for the whole family, but it's definitely got quite a few, actually, pretty serious and realistic elements to the action and the story that you're going to want to be there with your kids to be there for them and like explain things. It's based on a book by Peter Brown, and it has a whole host of terrific voice actors, including Lupita Nyong'o, who does the voice of the main robot, Mark Hamill in a surprising voice appearance, Ving Rhames was one of my favorites, Bill Nighy, and Catherine O'Hara. Lots of other voices too, but those are the ones that really stood out to me, are all voice actors in this movie. The animation is really lovely, especially the animation of the scenery of the natural world is really nice. The story takes place in the future. There's a few different things that tell you that it's in the future, but maybe not the too far distant future. One is the technology and the robots and things like that, which becomes more obvious as the movie goes on. But one thing that really caught our eye, if I've seen that book, I don't remember, but I don't know if this particular image is in the book, but there's one point in the movie where the geese are migrating and they fly over San Francisco, or perhaps what was San Francisco, and it's shown from above, from the bird's point of view, and it's the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, and you have to look closely. But there's humpback whales swimming below them in the water. And I didn't catch it quite at first, but the humpback whales are actually swimming on top of the span of the bridge where the cars used to drive. So it's implying that there has been sea level rise, and maybe the entire city of San Francisco is gone. I think if the water was that high, it probably would be. So it's kind of indicating that, we've had continuing climate change and global warming. Maybe some of the polar ice caps have melted and things like that. And the sea levels have risen. And now the span of the bridge, of the Golden Gate Bridge where you would have driven over, is now underwater. So that's kind of what it's indicating. The majority of the movie takes place on a wilderness island with no people on it or man-made structures or anything. It kind of indicates that it's in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. And so the only things living on this island, although there's lots of living things, is an abundance of animals. And it starts out, you don't learn exactly what happened until later, but it starts out with this robot still in her box. And she's kind of washed up on the beach. Later, they tell you in the movie that there was a number of these robots that were on a container ship, and there was a typhoon, which in the Pacific Ocean is what they would call a hurricane. The container ship sank maybe. And so this container that contained these robots, some of them washed up on the shore of this island. She basically has to adapt to being a robot on an island. And it's kind of neat and funny and stuff how that happens. And then there's a lot more to the story beyond that. But that's kind of giving you the premise of the story. There were 4 other movies that came to my mind when I was watching this movie in different ways. One was Finding Dory, and specifically the otters in Finding Dory. Another movie that came to my mind was Big Hero 6, and specifically the character of Baymax. This robot, Roz, in The Wild Robot, had some specific similarities, I would say, to Baymax. The third movie that it reminded me a lot of is The Iron Giant. If you have not seen The Iron Giant, that is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. It's so well done. The voices are terrific. It's Harry Connick Jr. and Jennifer Aniston. It's just such a good movie. It's so well done and it has such great messages in it. And I would say that this one does too. The Wild Robot has some really important and powerful life messages in it. Both like personal messages and like also for us as a global community. And then the fourth movie that it also reminded me of was Fly Away Home, which is a pretty old movie, but if you've seen that one, that's a really good one too. That's actually a live action movie based on a true story about this father and daughter who helped these geese who had lost their mother learn how to fly and migrate. And there's a big story element in this movie about a gosling that Roz the robot ends up raising, and he imprints on her, and his having to be able to learn how to fly and migrate with the other geese. Now, let me give you a couple of warnings. It's done in a very humorous way, but it's very realistic to the circle of life, if you will, and to the realities of nature. Be a little blunt. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of predator and prey stuff going on with the animals throughout the movie, especially at the beginning. But they do it in a really kind of funny way, but you're still kind of like, you know, like it takes you by surprise and you're like, oh my gosh. So you want to kind of prepare your kids for that. There was no profanity. There is quite a bit of action, and I would even say kind of violence, but it's more like the violence of nature against itself. And then also there is a couple of parts where there are some kind of scarier robots that shoot like laser things. So that's about the most violent aspects of it. But again, there are kind of some fairly serious and dramatic aspects to the story that can be kind of scary for kids. I would definitely not recommend this movie for small children. Everybody that was in the theater was a parent or parents and child groupings, and my son was the oldest child in the movie. The others were ranged in age younger than him, and I think the little girl that was with her mom over next to us, she was the youngest one, and she was maybe about 4, and she was definitely too young. Not only do I think it was probably a little bit too mature and scary for her, but it did not hold her interest at all. She was wandering around the theater and climbing on the chairs and wasn't really watching the movie at all. And then the young girl who was on the right side of us, she was like maybe like 8, and I saw her get up once too and maybe go out. But I would recommend this movie for older elementary, middle school, and high school, and adults will all really enjoy it. So I would say if your kiddo is like in 4th, 5th grade and up, that would probably be the best audience for this movie. They're going to get a lot more out of it if they're older. And I would definitely recommend it for your teens, because my teen loved it. We were saying as we came out of the theater that it was so nice to have a good movie come out for once, because there hasn't been a lot of really great stuff coming out of Hollywood in quite a while. And so we'll be excited to go to the movies, and then we'll come out kind of disappointed. But this time we didn't. This time we came out having really enjoyed the movie and really thinking it was good. So we gave it 5 out of 5. Terrific animation, really good story, great messages, awesome voice actors, really good movie. Highly recommend The Wild Robot. It was released into theaters on September 27th, and it's in theaters now. So go check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.